Hello, and welcome to the third installment of the Wharton Global High School Investment Competition Meet the Experts series. I'm Kara Dunn, Associate Director of the Wharton Global High School Investment Competition, part of the Wharton Global Youth Program. The Wharton Global Youth Program mobilizes the extensive opportunities of the Wharton academic community to educate, inform, and inspire pre-collegiate students to explore business practices, analyze the world's complex challenges, and take the needed steps to become leaders who will transform the global economy. In addition to the annual investment competition, we offer summer and academic year programs, as well as the only online business journal for high school students. I encourage you to explore the Global Youth Program website to learn more about our amazing opportunities. I want to take a moment to acknowledge our global audience today. Please post in the chat channel where you're coming from, your city, state, country, and school. So it's incredible to see so many students and educators from literally around the world joining us today. We are excited to provide our competitors with new learning opportunities. Meet the Experts is a weekly live interview with industry experts and Wharton faculty exploring different competition-related topics. All of our interviews are recorded and available on our competition website for those who missed it or would like to watch it again. Our next Meet the Expert webinar will be held on Wednesday, October 21st. We will discuss investing with a global perspective with William Landers, Managing Partner for BTG Pactual. I encourage you to post your questions at any time during the event using the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of the screen. Following our prepared questions, we will leave plenty of time for you to ask your questions. This program is for you, the students, so please ask away. Today, we are delighted to welcome Caitlin Cronin, an alum who knows both Wharton and the Wharton Global High School Investment Competition very well. Caitlin is an analyst in New York City on the Alternative Investment Strategies team at Aberdeen Standard Investments, a global asset management company. Aberdeen's Philadelphia office worked with us many years ago to launch our very first investment challenge in 2012 and has contributed time and expertise to the competition ever since. Caitlin graduated from Wharton in 2017 with a BS in economics and a minor in nutrition from Penn School of Nursing. She is also a 2021 Level 3 candidate in the Chartered Financial Analyst program. She became an investment competition judge 2 years ago, joining our panel of experts, both on the Wharton campus as well as online during last year's virtual global finale in May. Welcome, Caitlin. It's great to see you again.
Really happy to be here, Kara.
So thinking back to when you were in high school, which really wasn't that long ago, did you have a deep interest in finance and investing?
So I was really interested in economics because my father is an economist, and I was lucky to be able to take economics in high school. And I think my initial thoughts were I was going to pursue a more academic economic career back then, but college and beyond really has shaped that path differently.
And what exactly did you do to help you prepare for college?
I think on the academic side, I took a lot of AP classes, but what I think more important than academically preparing is really mentally preparing and thinking about which college will offer you opportunities for the career that you want to pursue or the freedom to explore different paths if you don't really know what you want to do. And if a certain college will align with your values and needs as well. So do you want to be close to family? Do you want to be in a city or a rural setting? Or are you more comfortable with a big or small campus? And are there clubs, sports, activities that will interest you outside of schoolwork? So the college process seems really daunting and competitive, and you forget that it's a mutual process. So it's really about what you want as well.
That's great. And did you know going into Penn that you wanted to pursue a career in finance? Was that always your first choice?
Well, since I was at Wharton, I knew that I would be pursuing a career in finance, but what I think Wharton really teaches you is that there are so many different possible financial opportunities, given all of the different concentrations at Wharton. So I really was able to see the breadth of all the opportunities.
So during your time at Penn, what kinds of courses did you take?
Yeah, so Wharton has both liberal arts and financial requirements. So I took classes in accounting, finance, statistics, math, public policy, economics, fixed income, management, marketing, and I also took nutrition classes through the nursing school as I was working towards my nutrition minor, which was a great outlet, something different. And some of my more advanced classes included investment management, behavioral finance, negotiations, and emerging economies as well.
Did you have a favorite course that you took while you were in school?
I'd have to say my more advanced ones were definitely more interesting because the classes were smaller and you got to engage a lot with the professors. I really enjoyed behavioral finance and also emerging economies as well, just because it was something beyond just the typical, Stat 101 or Finance 101. And I also think that the second level of finance was really what drove me to pursue a concentration in finance. I realized I was doing well and I was actually liking it. So, why not? I actually ended up pivoting from statistics to finance, given that and given the, some of the difficulty within statistics as well.
So in addition to, coursework that you did while in college, what about internships? How many internships did you have during your college career?
Yeah, so in terms of internships, the first couple of years I actually stayed at Wharton during the summer and conducted research. In my sophomore summer, I also worked in the Small Business Development Center at Wharton, which was really a consulting service for small businesses around Philadelphia, which was great. I really enjoyed doing that. And then my junior summer was where I had an external internship. So I worked on the U.S. fixed income desk at Aberdeen on the research side.
So coursework, internships, was there anything else that you did to prepare yourself to transition from college to the workforce?
In terms of transitioning, there wasn't really, much else I did. I was also a writing tutor, and I think that was really useful in preparing me for my job now, because it really is important to be able to write well and to be able to convey things to people when you're working and convey them well. So being clear and being able to synthesize information was definitely very important. I learned that from being a writing tutor.
That's great. Going back to internships, internships play an important role in providing students with the necessary experience and skills to transition into the workforce, but the process of identifying and securing these kinds of opportunities can be overwhelming. Where do you start? How did you find your internships?
Yeah, so I think the process is very daunting, and I think Career Services was a great resource in helping me edit my resume and also providing information sessions with different companies so I can gain exposure to different career paths. My best advice really is to, when applying for internships, is to, one, cast a wide net, and also two, to be open-minded. On the first point, apply to as many internships as you can, because internships are competitive and it's good to have options to choose from. And on the second point, a lot of opportunities come unexpectedly or really aren't the career path you thought you would pursue. I actually found my internship via an email from a club that I belonged to at Wharton. And additionally, my initial internship search really focused on equity research or consulting. But when I went to the interview at Aberdeen and learned more about what the firm did, I realized that was also really interesting to me as well.
So we mentioned that you have this minor in nutrition from the School of Nursing. How have those studies played into your professional life, if at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so nutrition is really something that I wanted to incorporate into my career, and I incorporated it into my research my first 2 summers at Penn. And then more recently, nutrition or having really a scientific background has definitely helped me understand the healthcare sector and how companies in that sector work. So that's also been really helpful.
Great. Um, so what made you ultimately choose Aberdeen?
So I chose Aberdeen, for the most part because it was such a great place to work. The people are amazing, and the work-life balance really works for me. And also, additionally, Aberdeen has a rotational program for new college graduates, which really allow me the flexibility to see the breadth of different careers within asset management.
That's really interesting. I know you started out at Aberdeen in the graduate business analyst program. How exactly did that work?
Yeah, so following my internship the prior year, I returned to Aberdeen after I graduated and rotated on various teams within the firm. So every few months, I would rotate onto a different team. So I rotated on the U.S. equity team, the request for proposal team, and also the total return bond team. And as I said, the rotational program was really amazing in that it helped me gain exposure to all the different career paths and also to really meet people within the organization that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Can you give us a broad definition of asset management? How would you describe your industry?
Yeah, so asset management broadly is the investing of client funds, be they institutional, i.e. endowments, pensions, etc., or retail, people like you and me. And these funds can be managed passively, such as in an index fund, or actively by using fundamental or quantitative methods to pick specific investments. And these funds can be invested in different types of asset classes, such as equities, fixed income, or alternatives. And alternatives can include private equity, real assets such as real estate, or hedge funds.
So what exactly does an analyst on the alternate investment strategies team do? Can you kind of give us a snapshot of your job?
Sure. So my team in general focuses on investing in hedge funds and then aggregating these investments into broader fund-to-fund portfolios based on client needs. And what I do specifically is research different hedge funds, specifically in the event-driven and equity long-short spaces. And then I write research reports and also conduct quantitative analysis on these different funds. And the hedge funds I cover can be existing investments or potential investments as well.
Would you specify a general skill set that you would need to work in asset management, or are the jobs quite specialized? What are those key skills, both generally and specifically?
So I think asset management is a very broad industry, and so there are different jobs, asset classes that require different skills. For example, some jobs are more quantitative and some are more qualitative, and some roles are more client-facing and others are strictly internal. So the industry is actually very inclusive of varying skill sets.
What's one thing that you've discovered about working in finance that surprised you?
So actually on the diversity of skill set note, I was surprised that working in finance doesn't have to mean a job that's strictly quantitative or even competitive in nature. And there are plenty of qualitative centric jobs within finance that are very important and require you to synthesize and present information in a clear manner. And there are plenty of firms that also have more approachable rather than competitive cultures. So very inclusive environment.
Speaking of inclusivity, can you tell us about your experience as a woman in the asset management industry? Has it come with its share of challenges, and if so, how have you overcome them?
I think Aberdeen specifically has done a great job of incorporating women into the industry, and more broadly, there are a number of conferences and networking events where you can meet women in the industry, which has been really great. And I think what's great about incorporating women into asset management as well is that men and women have inherently different investing styles and approaches. So when both are represented on a team, these approaches, varying approaches, can lead to stronger investment decisions. So I think it's been great overall for the industry.
That's great. So by now, you're pretty intimately involved in our annual investment competition. You've read several final reports and judged our top teams. Can you share some of your observations as a judge? What have you seen from past teams that are maybe best practices or even weaknesses? Is there a particular moment that stands out to you? I know we have a lot of students listening in right now, and they've probably pulled out their notepads to write down your feedback on this. So please let us know based on your experience.
Yeah, so I think teams need to understand the value of clarity, and while analysis might be quite strong, if the information is not conveyed clearly, it gets lost somewhat on the judges. And I think this aspect applies to both papers and presentations themselves. So a clear, concisely worded presentation is very impactful. And also, make sure you don't leave out what is asked of you in the case. And they're pretty easy to check the box points, but if you're able to incorporate and really meaningfully expand upon all aspects of what is asked of you, then that's really important. And also, focus on being creative in a meaningful way. So does the creative idea you have contribute positively to your investment process, or is it just, fluff? So I think really the best teams that I've seen can tell a story and articulate clear and creative processes.
That's some great advice. Speaking of advice, a lot of these students, they're first-time investors. Do you have any specific advice for first-time investors?
So I think, first-time investors, it's a big world out there, and you're, a little stressed out about, how daunting it is to try to pare all of that down. And I think, a lot of that working to pare down comes with time, and you'll just get better. You'll get better at figuring out what's important the more you read and the more you hone your investment process and your focus. But, really make sure you have a clearly defined investment process and goal, because that will really drive your research focus. You can always come back to that and kind of see if what you're researching is related to that goal, whether it's not. And so that will really help you decide what's not and what is relevant information.
You're an analyst, and our competitors are also asked to become researchers and analysts. What are some tips you can pass along about sorting through the volumes of information teams collect to figure out what is useful and what is not useful?
Yeah, I think it really starts with figuring out if it's equity investing, trying to break it down into different groups. So that could be sectors or subsectors, or short-term versus long-term investing. So making sure that you're able to kind of categorize information, I think, makes it easier to figure out where you put an investment and if an investment really does fit.
So moving away from the investment competition for a minute and kind of talking about your experience, can you talk about the relationship side of the workforce? How important are mentors and forging relationships with with other folks that can help you along your journey? How important is that? Have you had any mentors throughout your career thus far? Let's talk about relationships, I guess.
Sure. Well, I think mentorship is extremely important, and that's another reason why I came back to Aberdeen. Is that summer that I had the internship, I had two really great mentors that really thought that I was capable and gave me a lot of important work to do and really trusted me, and also walked me through everything and how to do everything and gave me feedback. And so I think that that really made me want to come back to Aberdeen, because having someone who's much older than you put in the time to really train you and care about you is really important. So that drove me back to Aberdeen, and that's really continued throughout my career at Aberdeen, the different teams I've been on and the team I'm on now. I think having a mentor, is very important from that aspect. And kind of thinking on the flip side, as I get older and as I move along in my career, I also am starting to really have mentees and people who are who look up to me. So I really want to give that back as well, give that great effort that those mentors have given me, and give that back to younger people so that they will continue to enjoy the asset management industry and Aberdeen.
How would one go about approaching somebody to be a mentor? What would kind of be a best practice in terms of reaching out to someone with more experience to serve as a mentor?
I think just taking the time to really understand that person and where they're coming from, and making sure that you are respectful of their time and working with them. And so when you do have that mentor, making sure you're engaged in what they're telling you and asking questions and following up. So I think it's definitely a mutual process, and I think that makes a really good mentor-mentee relationship.
This has all been some really great advice for our competitors, and they themselves have some really great questions for you. So we can transition our discussion over to our participants' questions. So we have a question. How has the global pandemic affected Aberdeen's business and your day-to-day work? What changes might last beyond the pandemic?
So I think in terms of what I do, I think working with a lot of institutional clients, there wasn't a ton of change when the pandemic started, just because they're long-term investors and they always need an allocation to alternatives. So from a client perspective, not a huge change. I think obviously from a work from home perspective, huge change. Being able to just go on Zoom calls. But I think that it's actually, once people figured out how to work within that environment and have conferences in that environment, it's almost been more efficient because you don't have to travel to a conference. You can see a bunch of different hedge funds in a day, more than you probably would have seen if it wasn't online. So that's been really great from that perspective. And then from specifically my team's perspective, half my team is actually in London. And before the pandemic, we actually would just talk maybe once a week on the phone and once a week on video. And now it's just so easy to talk to my colleagues over there on video anytime. So I think it's actually enhanced communication between my two sides of my team, which is great.
So this question pertains more to high school to college. What math classes did you take, and are AP exam scores important? So this question was specific to UPenn, but I think your thoughts on the importance of taking AP courses and how they play into the application process for college.
So, I think whether colleges take credit for AP classes is very specific to each college and each AP class, et cetera. But what I did really enjoy about AP classes was that, it was meant to kind of simulate a college environment. So I think a lot of times in those classes, I got exposure to great discussion and material that I wouldn't have gotten exposure to had I not taken those classes. In terms of classes that I did take, I took AP English, I took calculus, I took US history, I took economics, just to name a few of the AP classes that I did take. But I really enjoyed them, and I got out of them that enjoyment and that enrichment of learning. And I think that should be really, the main driver of taking a harder class, is that you really want to do it and you want to learn. And that's how I feel about AP classes.
Great. This question is from Ayesha. Which app or website should a beginning investor use for research?
I think really any website that has news is great to start with. So I mean, I read the New York Times, I read Bloomberg. You can just read the business section of those to just get some snapshots of business news. So and really any newspaper or news site that has like a business section, just to get some exposure to kind of the business world is really great.
So our questions bounce around from, the process of high school, college to a career, as well as, wanting to tap into your expertise regarding the investment competition, because I'm sure these students are going to try to get as much out of you as possible. But this goes back to, basically the journey. What do you think the most attractive quality is in college applications when applying to various colleges?
I think that really, honestly depends on the college and, what really that applicant, wants to do. Or, I think just being genuine is honestly the most important thing that college application viewers really want to see, college admission officers. I think showing, that you're genuine and that you are, hungry to learn and you have a life like, at school and outside of school that's very, vibrant and are things that you want to do. That's really what shows through, is that enthusiasm. So I think that's probably, the most important aspect of a college application.
Going back to the investment competition, can you tell us about the best team you have ever seen? What did they do well?
So yeah, the best team that I've seen, I think a couple teams kind of tie for the best. But what they really did well is kind of what I said earlier about being clear and concise, and also being very creative. So I think it was easy for the judges to understand the investment process, but it was also differentiated, and the presentation was well thought out. So I think those are really the main aspects of a strong team.
What has been your biggest challenge starting out in the asset management industry, starting out in asset management, and what did you learn from it?
I think maybe my biggest challenge, because I was on a rotational program, was kind of deciding what I really wanted to do. And, when you're presented with so much choice and you're so early in your career, it can kind of seem like I don't want to make the wrong decision. I don't want to pick, a team or, an industry, a sub-industry that I won't enjoy later. So I think kind of the choice was a little daunting. But ultimately, what's great about asset management as well is that, it's so broad, and there's really an opportunity throughout your career to make a pivot if you want to. So I think, shouldn't worry too much about having too much choice. It's kind of like an internship too. It's like, oh, should I really, this could be the end of, deciding my career. This could be it. This could be like my career path. It's daunting to kind of have that decision, but, just know that you can make that pivot anytime that you want. And, doing new things is really scary, but it's exciting at the same time. So, I think that was probably my biggest challenge, and I kind of just followed my heart, and I really enjoy what I'm doing now. So, yeah.
That's great. Is there, Ethan asks, is there a specific qualitative characteristic preferred for building a career in asset management?
Like, again, like what I said earlier about being able to synthesize information. I think there's a lot of information that's kind of thrown at you when you're investing, and figuring out what's most important, and then being able to apply that to investing. That's really like the key. Finding the main point and being able to invest is really the main point of qualitative strength.
And kind of building upon that, how do you balance qualitative and quantitative research as an analyst? Do you have some tips for using both approaches when figuring out where to put your money?
I think ultimately having a blend of both is really great. And I think what a lot of investors do is they'll kind of decide that that a company that they want to invest in is fundamentally a great company, but then they wait until kind of the numbers make sense. So they wait until the stock price is at a level that makes sense. So say a stock price is really, really expensive, but the company's great. Company fundamentally is great. You wouldn't really necessarily want to invest when the valuation is super high. You want to try to invest when the valuation is lower. So I think, using qualitative information to figure out whether you want to invest in a company is great, and then using that quantitative piece kind of to tactically apply that to purchasing an investment at the right price is really important as well.
Um, and this might be a little outside of your area, but we'll give it to you anyways. How do you conduct research on a new investment or stock? What do you start with?
So, I guess I can think back to my days on the equity team, and kind of my own personal investing, and also even hedge fund investing is somewhat not direct, but you still kind of see those direct investments within hedge funds, and you have to analyze those as well. What I will generally look for is, you start broadly. You start with, competitors and the landscape, and the environment around, that stock, the industry and the environment around that stock, and then you kind of hone down into the actual company, and you go through the accounting and the financials, and you can model that, and then after that, then you can think of, like I said, kind of where the company is positioned, specifically with more qualitative aspects, such as do they have any products coming to market, or what's kind of the outlook for that specific company. So I think you start broad, and then you go kind of more further and further down, drill down until you look at the company specifically, and then you assess it there. So.
So as Sophia is asking, what are some suggestions you would give to high school students that want to conduct research on either math or economics? What kind of research topics do you recommend at the high school level?
So, I think that's all just based on someone's interests. You can read some economic news, and pick something that's topical and that's meaningful to you, because that'll be something that you really want to continue to research on. So, I think that's really just driven by an individual preference.
Have you had any experience with impact investing or considering the social impact of investment decisions? Is this an important trend in asset management?
So ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, is becoming a very integral part of asset management, as clients are kind of demanding more socially sustainable investments. And I think the governance part has always been an important part of investment, whether it's on the equity side when you're looking at kind of company boards and company management, or whether it's on, the hedge fund side when you're looking at, kind of how the hedge fund operates and whether it's, ethical or not. So, I think it's a very emerging trend, and it's something we have been paying attention to for a while. Aberdeen is a European-based company, and ESG is even more popular in Europe than it is in the U.S. at this point. So it's been a consideration for us, and Aberdeen takes it very seriously, and definitely incorporates it into their investment teams.
Krish asked, what would you say would you say that consistent high returns on short-term trades are important in asset management rather than long-term strategic? Also, going back to what you were just discussing, how ethical are the investments in your own firm right now?
So, on the trading point, I think that really depends on the team. So, asset managers are typically comprised of a number of different investment teams that have different strategies. So it really just depends on, the strategy of that specific team, whether they're more tactical or strategically focused. So it really just depends on the team. And additionally, what was the second question? It was
how ethical are the investments in Aberdeen right now?
Okay. So I think each team kind of has their own way of scoring ESG, and whether they use, say, like the ESG scores that are out there now with different companies to kind of gauge, the kind of ESG score that their whole portfolio has. That's like one way to analyze kind of the ethics of an investment, and that's evolving as well, because ESG scores are very new, and they're really working. They work on incorporating qualitative and quantitative information into a holistic score. So they're not quite perfect now, but that is something that I think the industry is really working towards. Is creating like a more rigorous ESG scoring kind of metric.
So Caitlin, this has been a really fantastic conversation with you. And before we wrap up, one final question. Our students are still in the early stages of their academic journey. As you reflect on your studies and learning, what skills do you wish you had the chance to learn, or consider it differently when you are looking to hire someone for your team? What skills or qualities do you look for them to have?
So I wish that I was able to have an introduction to more, specific careers within finance when I was, in college, just given that there's such a diverse amount of career paths available. But I think employers really understand that new college graduates don't really have the specific domain expertise for the job, and that this will be learned, on the job. And I think what our team specifically looks for is someone who has a broad, basic financial skill set. So, Excel modeling capabilities and understanding of accounting and statistics, and also someone that can analyze and synthesize information effectively, given the job is research-based, and those research reports that I write really, inform portfolio managers and help them make allocation decisions. So, that skill is very important.
Well, once again, Caitlin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Really insightful comments from you. I know our participants learned quite a bit. And again, thank you to Aberdeen for their continued support of the investment competition. Aberdeen's a great partner for us to have. And to everybody that has been tuning in, thank you so much. We wish you good morning, good evening, or somewhere in between. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to register for our next Meet the Expert session taking place next week with William Landers from BTG Pac-12. Thank you so much. Have a great night.